I just built the game for Mac. Let's go! Alright, hey internet, my name's Mark. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute, but about a month and a half ago, Brackeys had a game jam. Fern and I went ahead and submitted a game. I kind of was coming out of a bit time where I couldn't work on this kind of thing, and so I didn't really know how it was gonna go. And I also know I have a bad habit of recording projects and then not really finishing the actual project. Plenty of evidence on the channel. So I don't actually have that much footage, which is like kind of okay, but I figured I'd just kind of go look at the game and what feedback we got. So first things first, you can find this at venturebytodoist.io/adventure-heart. This game is not great. It's a game jam game. It was my friend Ben and I's first submission to a game jam, and our goal was just like submit something to the jam. And being a part of that jam community, I think, was kind of fun. It had some credence to it. I haven't played this game since we like published it. You know what, I'm just gonna go over everything. So I'm gonna blur this, but like we had this super long Discord going. We have a little Discord server that we'll talk about ideas on, but this is just to show you how much chatter was happening for us throughout the week. When we started, Ben kind of saw it and he was like, hey, I wanna do this. And I finally could. This happened though, I was in a position where I couldn't make games. So there was a bunch of themes for Bracky. Risk It for the Biscuit was the winner. At my request, we used a program called Basecamp because I wanted to try it out. I don't really need to know much about it, but this is where we kind of coordinate our to-do lists. It was up and down here, but if I go to, I really like this little feature, docs and files. So we had Ben's brainstorm, so Ben came up with some ideas. My brainstorms, I came up with some ideas. I came up with some for every topic. There's not that much to see here. I just want to say, like, we were collaborating asynchronously and synchronously. This is where we started though. Risk It for the Biscuit was the theme. Here this is the combination of our ideas. And we wanted to go with Dungeon Savior, sort of, but a dating sim, with the risk being like asking the romantic interest out, right? One of the interesting challenges was just cutting scope. And we knew right off the bat that we had to decide what's our game loop. We have to decide what we want to actually work on and make sure that game loop and the game works, right? Because we're not, I would call us both artists, but like we're not asset creators. We used, sprites and stuff that were freely available. Pretty much, romantic interest has something they want. You go into a small dungeon, make it fun to play in, but don't make it the point of the game. And then the whole thing becomes like this narrative dialogue. This was me thinking about Risk, if you want to pause and read it. I think Risk is a really fascinating thing in games. Just talking about this is bringing up so much. Player agency is a really big thing I like to explore in video games and want to explore more of, because I've made 2 games in my life. One is a visual novel beta, one is this. I've got Minecraft mini games, I guess, and another small project, but I like narrative and I like diving into player agency and choice effectively. So like, the player goes to a dungeon, they could go back with 10 gold and maybe that's enough to buy something, or do they risk it all, dying in the next room to get more gold to go back? Playing a little bit with greed, if you will. That was kind of where that dungeon idea came from, but we wanted to go down the dating sim route because we both thought it would be more fun. It was more complicated, but it was worth it in the end. This was our mechanics list. We wanted to have 2 players. You'll see that we don't. And then we were like, definitely 2D game. We're not gonna F with 3D assets right now. And then we did choose to use Unity as opposed to something like Godot. I think Godot is something I want to explore more, but using Unity, I'm at a level in my own game development journey where like the engine does not matter. I can adapt to either one, and I'm not working on anything so deeply that the engine makes a difference for me personally. I just like Godot because I like open source and I don't love C#. Then again, GD scripts like Python, whatever. This was our schedule. Ben had pulled this from an article, and then this is the schedule we came up with, and we stuck to it pretty well. We ended up staying up till like midnight to get the 3rd interest in. I was like so grumpy, but Ben was like, dude, we gotta get this in. I was like, okay, fine. It was just type 2 kind of fun. I'm enjoying talking about it. I hope you're enjoying hearing me talk about it. Anyway, we were, here, ideation, project setup, minimal mechanic to build off of, and then we were off to the races. This was 2 months ago. Yeah, if this was a more intense video, I might break this down further. For those of you who don't know what GitHub is, it's a version control system for programming. In other words, Ben can make changes, I can make changes. We merge them and nothing bad happens. Think about editing a Google Doc, right? How do people both edit things at the same time? If someone edits the same line, how does that conflict get resolved? That's pretty much it. It's like you're working on a large text document, bunch of code files, it's the same thing. And so we had a feature branch workflow that just went right into the main branch. Ben would do some work, I would do some work. We broke it up differently. It was great. She's gonna reject my ass because I don't have gold. Damn, bro. The game should be in a game start event, but evidently that's not quite working. Anyway, I don't know. It's a code philosophy thing. Because, like, this is not sustainable. If I had taken more time on Thursday, I would have been okay. Admittedly, a part of it is also that I'm still somewhat unfamiliar with Unity, so there are times when I just quickly iterate and experiment, and then those things just stick because I want to move on to the next thing. And that's fine. I mean, my philosophy also involves trying to go fast. Oh, but not breaking things, you know what I mean? Doing a bit of live editing in OBS because I don't really do too much cropping. I don't know how to use DaVinci Resolve very well. But we had a bunch of our scenes set up for menu screens. Ben did the UI stuff for the most part. We had test scenes. I think this is something I would definitely do differently, is like be able to play the scene from anywhere, because we had like the first scene at the game start. We had this game object that would be created and it would persist through everything. So then you enter the dungeon, more dungeons. This is the deprecated overworld. Bunch of the sprites, the sounds. We used music that I made back in 2019. I've always wanted to just use it in a project, so that was cool. I don't know how to go over this without getting too technical. Game Jam game, we're kind of new to this. Here's all the files on the left that you can't see. There we go. It's nice to look at this because it's like, wow, I would organize this so differently. And like, that's the right thing to realize. I was obsessed with making sure everything was modular. That is to say, or like, could it be expanded upon for the romantic interests? So I came up with this like narrative system that was like, it kind of works. I think the idea is there, but I would need to refactor it. I also I didn't forget it was a Game Jam game. I like getting into the technical details. And so you have all these different events. So when you start the game, you're on game start event, game start. And then when the king announcement happens, you call this handler function, which is just a function that handles or does something. If you go to that definition, we just do some things, and we start the dialogue for the dialogue system. And that was its whole thing. We might open source the repository if you want to take a look at the code. I'm not going to go too far into it. That's not what this is about. I just wanted to say that like this got kind of complicated. You know, there's a bunch. We used ink for the narrative stuff. Ben found this. I really liked it. I think I'll use it in the future because you could also pull variables from it, which was a really cool discovery. Then there was another small game I was making before this, just like in 2 days, just a plane flying around. I can't really share that. I'm just never going to touch it again. But just to get me into Unity and like finding out the basics, right? I guess if I was doing this video properly, I'd go back, find the commit, pull in that time of the game, show how the game was at that point, or show what Unity was at that point. But this is not a very structured video. I'm at a point where I need to make a video and get it out there because I want to keep doing this, but I keep making these videos that are just too much for me to do. I had to dust in these. This was like a placeholder, but I was like, I like it. So, Monday we had this player running around. There was no directions. It was just a single sprite just moving across the screen. Right there you have the king announcement that's triggered. One of my bigger failings, and I think in general I have a hard time working with other people because I have such an ingrained way of doing my own thing, was like the narrative system was kind of complex. It should have been built not in a way to expand for multiple interests, but more to focus on making sure that Ben could also implement the romantic interest. The system might be good if we wanted to add more interests, but what good is it if I'm the only one who can do it? And it became spaghetti because, again, things got rushed. But yeah. And then Ben found these assets for Princess, Rebel, and then Ghost. So yeah, we had these sprites in. You gotta talk to one of them. You go in, here's a dungeon. We were both kind of like, oh, this archer that throws knives is kind of fun to play as. And then we just didn't get to a swordsman. I think I kind of kicked off the archer, and then we both kind of tweaked the movement a little bit. Ben kind of got these slimes in, and then worked on customizing the monster movement as well. I kind of set up the monster spawner base in a way. It was just something that worked, I guess. I set up the bombs, Ben set up the coins. It was a good distribution of work, I think, and we were pretty on the same page. Again, you just enter the dungeon, and it's the same thing. This is a bug. She shouldn't be here. No features, no regressions. Yeah, so then Saturday, the publish time was Saturday, 11:59 p.m. or whatever. We wanted to publish by Friday. We did get a build out on Friday, and then we were just squashing on Saturday because we're both also like work is the main priority. So this was just all the other times. I want to double down on the fact that it was a game jam and that we submitted something was the ultimate goal, and that was kind of nice. These are our scores overall. I thought it was hilarious that for audio we got that's our highest score, but it was really cool seeing these comments. And When I joined the jam, I started leaving comments on some games, and I felt like you kind of got a network in a jam because that's how I was playing people's games. I was seeing who was commenting where. We got some like genuinely good feedback. I know people were kind of like, obviously, dude, this is a game jam game, and like, yeah, of course. You know, this person kind of sums it up. I could go on a rant about stuff you can obviously tell, like the use of pre-made assets and missing a bunch of polish, but I feel like making a polished and complete game wasn't the primary goal for you. Couldn't sum it up better myself, Christoph Red. I was giving my own feedback as like a sort of gamer and a sort of game designer, but like, yeah, this was the cool part. This was really cool to just see it all come together. As you play through the game, pretty much you are this character. Welcome all, my fellow peasants and traveling adventurers like you in the orange. I've decided to rise up against the gods. In a mere 3 days, we shall destroy their dungeon. Crickets, because there are no NPCs. So first you have the rebel and then you have the princess, and you can go down either of their romantic pathways, but you can only choose one at the start of the game, and you have to A, choose the correct dialogue, and B, complete their objective. So if we go to the rebel and we say, hey, you're not from this kingdom, are you? You see, we don't want to see our dungeon destroyed. The king doesn't realize its value. If you enjoy the life of an adventurer, please help me. And then you say, what's life without a little risk? And this triggers you on the rebel's path. But then I say, how do I know I can trust you? Not all causes worth fighting for live in the light. If you want to help keep your dungeon around, come find me in the forest from where you came. And I go find her in the forest, but she's not there. That was a small little tweak that bugged me. Princess, hi adventurer, I notice your platinum amulet and you must be a traveler from afar. You see my father is being rash. He should at least collect the gold before he blows up the dungeon. Why does it sound like Mickey? Would you be open to helping me with a quest before he destroys what cannot be recovered? Sounds kind of risky just for some gold. Well, maybe it's best we don't speak here. Come find me by the king's stage. And then they reset. This also might not happen. So then you go in, you talk to her. She says some more stuff. For the rebel, you have to collect bombs in the dungeon, and you have to make sure you answer all the dialogue properly. It's also the same thing. So for the princess, you just have to collect gold. One of the questions we got a lot of was like, what do I do with the gold? And I think that was an interesting question because it states that there's like some preconception, right? That gold has to have a singular function. That gold has to do something. You have to be able to use it in a shop or buy something. Just in general, like as gamers. You have to kill all the monsters. Did I defuse the bomb? I think I did, but the UI doesn't update, which I think I have listed below as a known bug. And so we talked to her. All right, doing my best, so far so good. She'd be able to get you at least a few. And I think she recognizes I have a bomb. I don't remember. And we left the dash in the game. I don't know if that was intentional or not. And this is where like, the dungeon gameplay is not meant to be, like it wasn't exactly our intention to make it like the most enthralling thing. And it does get a little redundant. I can't lie. I'm not going to say anything about the ghost because like, hey, if you want to go play and figure out what's up with the ghost girl, you do that. I may have been grumpy that evening implementing her narrative, but I knew it was a necessary evil and it was so worth it. Because even if no one like unlocked her timeline or whatever, and I think it's just great. I tried to make sure the narrative choices, despite them being off the cuff, could be like the pattern was noticeable. So the rebel likes confidence. The princess likes someone who wants to become nobility. Well, that was game over. I'm not gonna go play through that whole thing. But at the end, you do get some stats that say like what happened and whatnot. Like that's the end result. And the fact that we could publish a game and send this link to people, that's the point of this to me. When I'm trying to suffer through drawing it is so that one day I can take an illustration and hand it to someone. For me, making a game in the isolation of this little office space that I have and then not doing anything with it is like, what? Why? Why even start? If you are going to try, go all the way. I definitely want to do another game jam in the future. I don't know how. Right now I'm super focused on art and jiu-jitsu and work. I think one of the biggest learnings for me on a technical level was that assets put the seal, like they seal the deal for a game. Unless you make like basic assets a part of your art direction, which can happen, it doesn't become a game quite yet. Once we put the sprites in and the sprites were turning, like that was like, oh my God. And then you push the build button on Unity and you upload it to itch and you're like, yo, dude, we made a game. And that's what's fun, right? Just sharing that. Like, just, you know, Death's Ballad is a prototype and it's garbage, but it's out there. You can play it. And I'm coming back to this. I love this idea. It was a type 2 kind of fun, and it's nice to find that kind of thing in knowledge work every once in a while. That is, you know, sitting behind your desk for what you're doing. I feel like I'm really doing the things that I want to do now. And the fact that I was in a situation where I couldn't do that showed me what I really wanted to do. It was a short-term thing, but I think this is what I need to be doing. So, thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. And as always, don't forget to stay awesome. I will see you in the next one. Peace.